The psychology of eternal youth. Understanding the man-child phenomenon. Have you ever met someone who seems perpetually stuck in a state of youth, always chasing the next exciting thing, but never quite settling into the responsibilities of adulthood? Perhaps you've noticed patterns in your own life where commitment feels suffocating, where routine feels like a prison, and where the grass always seems greener on the other side. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating psychological patterns that affects millions of people across the world. The psychology of the eternal youth, sometimes called the Puer Eternus in psychological literature. This isn't just about lazy people who refuse to grow up. It's about a profound psychological pattern that reveals something fundamental about human nature, our fears, our dreams, and the painful process of becoming who we're meant to be. Whether you recognize this pattern in yourself, in someone you love, or you're simply curious about the hidden forces that shape human behavior, this exploration will change the way you understand personal growth and maturity. So stay with me, because what we're about to uncover might just be the missing piece in understanding why some people soar, while others remain forever grounded in potential that never quite takes flight. The core pattern. At its heart, the eternal youth psychology represents a person who refuses to fully land in reality. Imagine a bird that loves the feeling of flight so much that it never touches the ground, never builds a nest, never commits to a single tree. This captures the essence of what we're discussing. The eternal youth lives in a world of infinite possibilities, endless potential, and perpetual preparation for the real life that will supposedly begin tomorrow, next month, or next year. But that tomorrow never quite arrives, because the very act of choosing one path means letting go of all the others. And this is where the psychology becomes truly interesting. From a psychological perspective, this pattern emerges from a deep conflict within the human psyche. On one side, there's the natural human desire for freedom, creativity, spontaneity, and the magical thinking of childhood where anything seems possible. On the other side, there's the inevitable pull towards structure, responsibility, commitment, and the limitations that come with being a real, embodied human being living in the real world. Most people navigate this tension and gradually integrate both sides as they mature. They learn to be both free and responsible, both creative and disciplined, both dreamers and doers. But the eternal youth gets stuck in the first half of this equation, unable or unwilling to embrace the second half. The allure of infinite potential. Why does this happen? One of the most compelling explanations from depth psychology suggests that the eternal youth is actually in love with potential itself. Think about it this way. When you're purely potential, you can be anything. You could be the next great artist, the revolutionary entrepreneur, the world-changing innovator, the enlightened sage. The moment you actually commit to becoming something specific, you have to face the painful reality that you're not everything else. If you become a doctor, you're not a musician. If you commit to this relationship, you're not available for all the other possible relationships. If you live in this city, you're not experiencing life in all the other cities. This is the fundamental wound that the eternal youth cannot bear, the wound of limitation, of being merely human, of being just one person with one life. There's a philosophical dimension to this that's worth exploring. Human consciousness has this unique ability to imagine infinite possibilities. We can dream of countless futures, envision alternative versions of ourselves, and mentally escape any situation we find ourselves in. This is one of our greatest gifts as conscious beings, the ability to transcend our immediate circumstances through imagination. But it becomes a curse when we use this ability not to enhance our reality, but to escape it entirely. The eternal youth lives primarily in imagination, in the realm of what could be, and this prevents them from ever experiencing the depth and richness of what is. The fear beneath the surface. Beneath the charming spontaneity, the creative energy, and the youthful enthusiasm of the eternal youth pattern, there lies a profound fear. It's the fear of discovering that you're ordinary. It's the terror of trying your absolute best at something and finding out that your best isn't good enough. As long as you never fully commit, never give your complete effort, never truly plant your flag in any one place, you can always maintain the comforting illusion that you could have been extraordinary if only you had tried. This is a brilliant psychological defense mechanism, but it's also a prison that prevents any real growth or achievement. Consider how this plays out in practical life. The eternal youth might be the person with 5 different business ideas, but never launches one. They might be the individual who talks passionately about their novel, but never gets past chapter 3. They might be the romantic who falls intensely in love with the fantasy of a person, but withdraws the moment real intimacy and real problems emerge. They might be the spiritual seeker who moves from one teaching to another, always convinced the next one holds the ultimate answer, never staying long enough to do the deep work any genuine path requires. In each case, the pattern is the same. Approach with enthusiasm, retreat before commitment, preserve the fantasy of unlimited potential. The relationship with time. One of the most telling features of the eternal youth psychology is a distorted relationship with time. Most of us gradually develop what we might call a mature relationship with time. We understand that our days are numbered, that opportunities have windows, that certain things must be done at certain stages of life. This awareness, while sometimes uncomfortable, is actually what motivates us to act, to commit, to build something real with the time we have. The eternal youth, however, unconsciously believes they have infinite time. Tomorrow is always available. There's always the possibility of starting fresh. Age is just a number. While there's something admirable about maintaining youthful energy and not being constrained by arbitrary social timelines, when taken to an extreme, this attitude becomes a denial of reality. Time is the ultimate limitation that every human being must face. We cannot escape it, negotiate with it, or charm our way around it. And perhaps this is why the eternal youth struggles so profoundly with time. It represents the one limitation that cannot be ignored forever. Eventually, the years accumulate, the body ages. Peers move forward with careers, families, and accomplishments. And the eternal youth is confronted with the devastating realization that they've spent decades circling the airport but never actually landed anywhere. The shadow side of creativity. Interestingly, the eternal youth pattern often appears in highly creative and intelligent individuals. There's a real correlation between creativity and this psychological pattern, which makes sense when you think about it. Creative people are often those who can see beyond conventional boundaries, who question established structures, who imagine alternative possibilities. These are valuable traits. The problem arises when the creative energy that should be channeled into actual creation instead gets stuck in perpetual imagination and planning. True creativity requires something that the eternal youth struggles immensely: the discipline to bring imagination into manifestation. Every real creative work, whether it's a painting, a business, a relationship, or a meaningful life, requires committing to a form. The sculptor must commit to removing certain pieces of marble, which means accepting that the final sculpture won't take other possible forms. The writer must commit to these specific words in this specific order, letting go of all the other possible ways the story could be told. This is the creative act that the eternal youth avoids because it requires accepting limitation as a necessary part of creation. The mother complex and dependency. From a psychological analysis perspective, the eternal youth pattern often has roots in early developmental experiences, particularly in the relationship with the mother or primary caregiver. This isn't about blaming parents, it's about understanding how early patterns shape later psychology. Sometimes this pattern emerges from a childhood where the person was overly sheltered or treated as special in a way that didn't prepare them for the ordinary struggles of adult life. Other times it comes from the opposite, from early wounds that make the person unconsciously determined to never again be vulnerable, committed, or dependent in any way. What's crucial to understand is that the eternal youth remains, in a sense, psychologically dependent, even while appearing to be fiercely independent. They're dependent on the fantasy of unlimited potential, dependent on the next exciting thing to rescue them from ordinary reality, dependent on external validation to maintain their special status. Real independence, paradoxically, comes from accepting dependence in healthy ways, depending on a structure, depending on a commitment, depending on other people through genuine relationships.